Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Attorney General Garland, for coming before our committee today. I'd like to take every opportunity that I have to share with our nation the making of a great community. I grew up in one in the Deep South 1960s. Though in the depths of Jim Crow segregation, it was a community that produced giant Americans like Clarence Thomas, Condoleezza Rice, Thomas Sowell, Walter Williams, and Colin Powell. This was not by accident, it was also not rare. It was a community of faith, family, free market, and education. Education was the very core of our success. I was raised in a home of teachers. My dad was a college professor for 40 years. My mom, a junior high school teacher.
Oh, wow.
They were trusted to do what teachers have done throughout our history, to teach children how to read, write, add, subtract, and to think critically. Success in education was always based on parental involvement. It was both expected and welcomed. In my great state of Utah, these expectations of parents have not changed. We do not expect, nor will we tolerate, leftist teaching of our children behind our backs, the evil of CRT, how to hate our country and hate others based on skin color. Some of the most recent actions that the Department of Justice have taken against parents are concerning, and I'd like to direct my questions around that topic. Similar questions have been asked, and I do want to make it very clear that to some of my constituents, some of the concerns I have. We can all agree that true threats and violence at school board meetings are inexcusable. Attorney General Garland, do you agree with the National School Board Association that parents who attend school board meetings and speak passionately against the inclusion of divisive programs like critical race theory should be characterized as domestic terrorists?
I do not believe that parents who testify, speak, argue with, complain about school boards and schools should be classified as domestic terrorists or any kind of criminals. Parents have been complaining about the education of their children and about school boards since there were such things as school boards and public education. This is totally protected by the First Amendment. I take your point that true threats of violence are not protected by the First Amendment. Those are the things we're worried about here.
Okay,
those are the only things we're worried about here.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Is there legal precedent for the Department of Justice to investigate peaceful protests or parental involvement at public school meetings?
Good idea.
Just to say again, we are not investigating peaceful protests or parent involvement at school board meetings. There's no precedent for doing that, and we would never do that. We are only concerned about violence, threats of violence against school administrators, teachers, staff, people like your mother, a teacher. That is what we're worried about. We are worried about that across the board. We're worried about threats against members of Congress. We're worried about threats against police.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I'm also a member of the Education and Labor Committee. On October 7th, Republican members of this committee sent you a letter, you and Secretary Cardona, expressing a concern about disparaging remarks that the Secretary had made against parents. In this letter, we request that you brief the Education and Labor Committee before taking action on your threats to parents' lawful expression of legitimate concerns. Have you received that letter, and do you plan on testifying before the House Education and Labor Committee?
I'm sorry, I don't recollect the letter, but I'll ask my staff to find out where it is.
Okay. Let me just say this as I wrap this up, and I do appreciate you being here, Attorney General. I watched a time, I was aware of a time when our race led our country and the percentage of men matriculating from college, black men matriculating from college. I now have been aware of in 2017 studies that the Department of Education that 75% of the black boys in the state of California cannot pass standard reading and writing tests. That's a big shift. And the difference is, in those days when I was growing up, parents were involved. There was a trust that we can send our kids to school and they'll be taught how to love our country, love each other, and love education. That has been changed drastically. And I think I'm going to
hate our country.
Out there, get involved. Now's the time. Do not trust.
I don't know what else it is. I get the hate the country thing where you hate slavery and you hate this, but that's not who we are. We're not slave owners. We're each other.
Love education and move forward.
Yeah, love knowledge. Value it.
School America, where we can really appreciate the fact that who
Chinese
we are.
value it. The Indians value it.
Should be teaching us how to do
America,
that.
we friggin' kill our schools.
Gentleman yields back, Mr. Cohen.
Like right now.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
welcome, General Garland. I feel